This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, U.S. President Donald Trump and Venezuela's acting president Delcy Rodriguez talk trade. Washington confirms the first sale of Venezuelan crude under the new outreach, a deal worth $500 million. Denmark and Greenland hold the line. Officials admit they failed to shift U.S. policy after high-level talks, as President Trump maintains his push to acquire the island territory for America. Ukraine's energy sector enters a state of emergency. Intensified Russian missile and drone strikes have crippled power grids, leaving millions to face freezing winter conditions. A diplomatic balancing act in Beijing. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney holds trade talks in the Chinese capital, navigating a strained relationship with the U.S. Concerns grow over the upcoming ASEAN summit. A top economist warns that world leaders may boycott a meeting hosted by the Philippines later this year. Baligayan stands firm on the Infrastructure Commission. The palace says the ICI can still recommend cases, even with just one member remaining. This special advisor, Rodolfo Azarin Jr., seeks urgent clarification on the commission's future. And Taylor Swift's Seasons of Giving continues. The superstar has sent a generous gift to the store, the charity run by Brad Paisley and Kimberly Williams Paisley to help families in need. I'm Hannah Jane Sancho. Newsline World starts now. Ukraine has declared a state of emergency in its energy sector as intensified Russian missile and drone attacks cripple power infrastructure during freezing winter conditions. Paul Monibon tells us more.
Повинні бути рішення. Юридично буде зафіксовано стан надзвичайної ситуації в енергетиці. Це дасть більше можливостей.
President Vladimir Zelensky declared a state of emergency in Ukraine's energy sector, saying widespread power outages have left large parts of the country without electricity as temperatures drop below zero. Ukraine is battling a harsh cold winter, with overnight temperatures in Kyiv dropping around negative 20 degrees Celsius in recent days. Ukrainian officials estimate that around 70% of the capital has been left without power, underscoring the scale of the damage as winter conditions intensify. Zelensky said Russia launched nearly 300 drones, 18 ballistic missiles, and 7 cruise missiles targeting Ukraine's energy infrastructure. Russia on Tuesday said its forces had launched massive strikes on Ukrainian energy and military-industrial infrastructure with precision-guided munitions and drones targeting over 150 sites, including ammunition depot, fuel warehouses, and temporary deployment points for Ukrainian troops and foreign mercenaries. Amid the uncertainty surrounding Ukraine's energy sector, Zelensky appointed a new energy minister, Denis Shmyhal, who has been placed in charge of coordinating emergency response efforts with a central headquarters to be set up in Kyiv. He said the government would fast-track the connection of backup power systems, remove bureaucratic obstacles, and increase electricity imports to stabilize supply. Certain areas are also affected.
Особливо складно в Києві, також Одеса, Дніпровщина, Дніпро, Кривий Ріг, ще деякі інші наші міста і регіони.
Zelensky stressed that air defense remains a top priority as Russia continues targeting energy facilities that Moscow claims support Ukraine's military production. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montibon, SMNI News.
Amid trade tensions and restrictions, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum says economic integration between Mexico and the United States is still working for both countries. Joy Tabanao for the details.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has defended the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, saying economic integration between Mexico and the United States continues to benefit both sides, despite ongoing challenges and trade restrictions. Speaking at a conference, Sheinbaum emphasized that American business leaders themselves remain among the strongest supporters of the trade pact, citing the deep economic ties between the two countries.
Quienes más defienden el tratado son los empresarios estadounidenses, los que más, por supuesto, México también. ¿Por qué? Porque hay una integración muy grande.
Her remarks come as trade relations and supply chains remain under scrutiny, with North American leaders weighing how best to strengthen regional cooperation in an increasingly competitive global economy. Sheinbaum said she does not want to engage in direct political confrontation and argued that economic integration has continued to function, even amid restrictions imposed under the agreement.
No quisiera yo entrar en el debate directo, ¿no? O sea, yo creo que hasta ahora, con sus dificultades e incluso las restricciones que ellos han puesto, está funcionando la integración económica para ambos países.
The Mexican leader also pointed to growing global competition, particularly from China, as a reason for North America to remain economically united.
Lo que hay que hacer es decir, a ver, ¿cómo seguimos avanzando en el tratado? Y si hay modificaciones, pues buscamos las modificaciones, pero es benéfico para Estados Unidos y benéfico para México. Incluso a Estados Unidos le importa hoy mucho la competencia con China por el desarrollo de China en muchísimas áreas y otros países asiáticos, pero principalmente China. Es mucho mejor que nos mantengamos como América del Norte para competir con China que solito Estados Unidos.
Joy de Banao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is holding trade talks in Beijing, signaling a diplomatic balancing act as Canada faces challenges in its relationship with the U.S. This report from Paul Malibon.
Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is now in Beijing for high-level trade talks as relations between Canada and the United States remain strained. Carney's visit comes amid ongoing tensions with Washington over trade policies and tariffs, prompting Ottawa to seek stronger economic ties with other major global partners. Officials say that talks will focus on trade cooperation, market access, and supply chain stability as Canada looks to diversify its economic relationships beyond the United States. China is one of Canada's largest trading partners, though relations between the two countries faced challenges in recent years over diplomatic and security concerns. Carney is expected to meet senior Chinese leaders during his visit as both sides explore ways to stabilize relations and expand trade amid shifting global economic dynamics. The trip underscores Canada's effort to balance its foreign policy and trade interests at a time of a heightened geopolitical and economic uncertainty. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, reporting for Newsline World, this has been Paul Montebon, SMNI News.
Up next, concerns grow over the upcoming ASEAN summit. A top economist warns that world leaders may boycott the meetings hosted by the Philippines later this year. And Malacanang stands firm on the Infrastructure Commission. The palace says the ICI can still recommend cases, even with just one member remaining. This is Special Advisor Rodolfo Azarin Jr. seeks urgent clarification on the Commission's future. More news when Newsline World returns.
Sa kabila ng mga mas modernong kaalaman at teknolohiya, nananatiling matindi ang banta ng HIV sa Pilipinas. Pero Gaano nga ba kalala ang sitwasyon? Ang HIV o Human Immunodeficiency Virus ay isang sakit na sumisira sa immune system ng katawan. Ngunit tandaan, hindi ito nakukuha sa simpleng pakikisalamuha. Hindi mo agad mararamdaman, pero unti-unti nitong pinapahina ang katawan. At kapag hindi naagapan, humahantong ito sa AIDS, ang huling yugto na impeksyon, kung saan halos wala ng panlaban ng katawan laban sa sakit. Patuloy na dumadami ang kaso ng sakit na ito sa Pilipinas. Isang nakababahalang pagtaas. Umabot na sa 500% ang itinaas ng HIV cases sa mga kabataang edad 15 hanggang 25. Ayon mismo sa Department of Health, 56 na bagong kaso ang naitatala kada araw sa bansa mula Enero hanggang Marso 2025. At ang pinakamatinding apektado, ang kalalakihan at kabataang Pilipino. Dahil dito, ang Pilipinas na ngayon ang may pinakamataas na bilang ng bagong kaso ng HIV sa buong Western Pacific region. Isang indikasyon ng lumulubahang sitwasyon. Kaya nananawagan ng Department of Health gawing opisyal at urgent ang laban sa HIV sa pamamagitan ng isang Public Health Emergency Declaration. Kalalakihan ng pangunahing apektado. 95% ng bagong kaso ay lalaki. Mahigit 1/3 ay kabataang nasa edad 15 hanggang 24. Habang wala pang deklarasyon, patuloy ang DOH sa mga sumusunod na hakbang: HIV testing, libreng gamot, self-test kits, at pakikipagtulungan sa DepEd para sa edukasyon sa mga paaralan. Isinulong rin ng DOH ang online patient appointment system para sa HIV patients. Layunin nitong gawing mas madali at mas personal ang pag-access sa libreng gamutan at konsultasyon. Ayon sa schedule ng pasyente, ang HIV ay hindi tulad ng flu. Hindi ito basta naipapasa sa hangin. Ito ay naipapasa sa pamamagitan ng personal na desisyon. Kailangan din nating pagtuunan ng pansin ang ugali, disiplina, at personal na responsibilidad. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
Pasasaan pa ang kalayaan kung ang mga alipin ngayon ay sila din naman mang-aalipin bukas.
Ibigin mo ang iyong bayan ng sunod kay Bathala, sa iyong kapurihan at higit sa lahat sa iyong sarili.
Hindi natin mapapalaya ang ating mga sarili maliban kung sumulong tayo na nagkakaisa sa iisang hangarin.
Ang tunay na makabayan ay ang tumutupad ng pagpapabuti ng kanyang mga kapwa, gaano man kaaba ang kanyang katungkulan. Naway magsilbing paalala ang kanilang mga salita upang lalo nating mahalin at tapat na paglingkuran ang minamahal nating inang bayan.
An economist is expressing concern that world leaders may possibly boycott the ASEAN summit and other related meetings to be held in the Philippines this year. Find out the reason in this story by MJ Mondejar.
The Philippines will serve as host and ASEAN chair for the ASEAN summit and all related summits this year. As a result, the heads of state of the 11 ASEAN member countries are expected to visit the country. Attendance is also expected from world superpowers that are not ASEAN members, such as the United States, China, Russia, and other countries. However, according to CPA economist Cora Guidote, due to the current investor climate in the country, there's a risk that world leaders may boycott the summit.
Actually, medyo kinakabahan ako dyan sa pag-host natin sa ASEAN kasi usually pag walang tiwala yung mga bansang yan, baka hindi sila magpadala ng heads of state. Baka ang ipadala nila yung mga lower level officials lang.
According to Guidote, potential investors are clearly seeing the alleged pressure being imposed on local businesses that are considered political opponents of the administration.
Yung nangyari ngayon kay Congressman Leandro Leviste, he is a major businessman. No? He has invested in solar power plants. Tapos ngayon tinatanggalan siya ng lisensya. Just because may mga binunyag siya na katotohanan tungkol dun sa DPWH.
The Department of Energy has imposed a 24 billion peso fine on Solar Philippines Power Project Holdings Incorporated, the renewable energy firm founded by Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste. According to the DOE, the company allegedly failed to meet its committed power generation targets under various service contracts. On his official Facebook page, Leviste asserted that what is being done to him is harassment. Leviste added that the company has the largest renewable energy capacity in the country and delivered the biggest foreign investment to the Philippines in 2025. Leviste now is also in possession of the so-called Cabral files of the late former Public Works Undersecretary Maria Catalina Cabral, which also contain a list of politicians and officials involved in anomalies related to flood control projects.
So, kung ganun ang gagawin ng gobyerno, imbis na ayusin yung problema dun sa corruption, yung nagbubunyag pa ng katotohanan, yun yung i-oppress nila, di ba? Businessman yun eh.
The Philippines' hosting of the ASEAN Summit is expected to generate many jobs, especially in the sectors of tourism, hotel and restaurant services, and transportation.
So isipin ng ibang businessmen, naku, pag kinontra mo pala yung gobyerno, matatanggalan ka ng business. Ganon. So it's very arbitrary. Kumbaga parang, pag naisipan namin tanggalin yan, tatanggalin namin. Maski walang katuturan. So yun ang nakakaapekto ng confidence ng mga investors.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondejar, SMNI News.
Malacanang asserted that the Independent Commission for Infrastructure remains capable of recommending the filing of cases even if only one member remains. The palace also responded to statement of ICA Special Advisor Rodolfo Azurin Jr. They intend to write to the Office of the President to seek clarification on the Commission's fate. President Catarong reports.
Malacanang does not consider the lack of commissioners at the Independent Commission for Infrastructure or ICI, which is investigating alleged irregularities in government flood control projects, as a major problem. This was stated by Presidential Communications Office Undersecretary Claire Castro in response to remarks by ICI Special Advisor Rodolfo Azurin Jr. that the ICI has yet to make any referrals due to the lack of members. Castro said that even if only one member remains at the ICI, the Commission still has the capacity to recommend the filing of cases with the Office of the Ombudsman or the Department of Justice, provided there is sufficient evidence. At present, only former Supreme Court Associate Justice Andres Reyes Jr. remains at the ICI, serving as its chair.
So kung kanila i-recommendatory kanilang function to recommend the filing of the case to the Ombudsman, kahit po nag-iisa ang isang Justice Reyes. Kung ito naman po ay may sapat na ebidensya, hindi naman ito makakahadlang para sila po ay mag-rekomenda ng pagsasampa ng kaso.
Castro also responded to questions on whether it is necessary to immediately appoint new commissioners following the resignation of former Public Works Secretary Rogelio Singson and Rosana Fajardo. According to the PCO official, the decision rests with the President, but she stressed that the lack of commissioners does not hinder the work of the Commission. Castro added that the ICI does not require a quorum to issue recommendations, as its primary mandate is to complete the investigation and gather evidence. She said the former commissioners have already completed their mandate, and the remaining step is the collation and recommendation of cases.
Sa aking pagkakaintindi, hindi po kailangan ng quorum dahil nabuo po sila para po makumpleto po ang pag-iimbestiga. Katulad po ni Secretary Babe Singson at si Commissioner Fajardo.
Regarding Azurin's statement that they would write to the Office of the President to seek clarification on the fate of the ICI, the palace responded,
Kung nais po ni General Asuri na sumulat para merong silang mga katanungan, mas maganda po kung magkakaroon sila ng meeting with the President. Pero independent body po ito, or rather a commission.
Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Kersiling Catarong, SMNI News.
Despite the Philippines' preparations to host the ASEAN Summit this year, economic challenges remain. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas and employers groups warn that investor confidence continues to be weak and investment inflows remain slow. Angel Pastor reports.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP expects the country's economy to continue growing at a sluggish pace until 2026 due to persistently weak investments and low business confidence. According to the BSP, the economy has yet to fully gain momentum, resulting in low production levels, limited job creation, and the underutilization of the capacity of both businesses and workers. This was reflected in the 4% economic growth recorded in the third quarter of 2025, the slowest pace in more than 4 years. Meanwhile, the Employers Confederation of the Philippines or ECOP admitted that investor confidence in the country remains weak even as the Philippines hosts the ASEAN Summit this year. ECOP President Sergio Ortiz Luis Jr. said ASEAN meetings have the potential to help attract investments and forge trade agreements, but these are still not enough to restore business confidence.
Well, definitely dahil madaming darating na mga countries na may mga kasama mga investors possibly yan, plus yung mga agreement na magagawa regarding trade, siyempre malaki ba itutulong. Isa ngayon, medyo malabo yung investment natin dahil hiniiwasan tayo ngayon, natatakot sa atin.
ECOP also noted that the Philippines has slipped in ASEAN rankings from 2nd place to 7th, an indication of the country's declining competitiveness in the region.
Kasi yan, dati number 2 tayo or number 1, ngayon number 7 na tayo, nilalapos-lapos na tayo. Kaya sana magkaroon ng pagkakataon na ma-renew natin yung mga arrangement sa mga karating bayan.
Ortiz also pointed to the controversial 2025 national budget as one of the reasons for the continued decline in business sector confidence.
Dahil sa 2025 budget na the worst budget ever, very disappointed ang tao na nangyari, wala pa rin nangyayari. Tapos yung budget ng 2026 na iniisip natin, malaking kaibahan na sa mga anomalous budget marami pa rin question.
Both ECOP and the BSP stressed that without clear and concrete steps to strengthen governance and restore investor confidence, the country's economic recovery will remain slow despite expectations of gradual improvement by 2027. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Angel Pastor, SMNI News.
The death of Congressman Romeo Acop has left Antipolo City's 2nd District seat vacant. The Commission on Elections is preparing special polls on March 14 and has asked the President's Office for additional funding, even without a House resolution. Margaret Gonzalez will give us more details.
The Commission on Elections or COMELEC will conduct special elections in Antipolo City's 2nd District after the position was vacated due to the death of Representative Romeo Acop. This is despite the absence of a formal declaration of vacancy and a resolution from the House of Representatives directing COMELEC to hold special elections. According to COMELEC Chairman Attorney George Garcia, the Constitution mandates the Commission to hold special elections whenever a congressional seat becomes vacant. He cited the Supreme Court ruling in Hagidoran versus COMELEC, which states that all body does not need a resolution from the House of Representatives to conduct special elections. COMELEC has already written to House Speaker Boji D informing him that the Commission can no longer wait for the issuance of a House resolution.
Base po sa nakalagay sa ating saligang batas na dapat kapag nagkaroon ng bakante sa posisyon ng congressman, dapat po si COMELEC ay kaagad magpatawag ng isang special election 60 araw, hindi mas maaga doon. Pagkatapos magkaroon ng bakante at hindi dapat lalampas ng 70 araw. Sabi po ng Korte Suprema sa naging desisyon niya, hindi kakailanganin ng pagpapatawag mula sa House of Representatives upang si COMELEC ay mag-hold ng special election. Sabi po ng Korte Suprema, kami ay kinakailangan mag-relay lamang sa news reports mula sa telebisyon, sa radyo o dyaryo na hindi nakakailanganin pa ng isang resolusyon mula sa House of representatives. Sinabi pa ng Korte Suprema na ito ay isang mandato ng COMELEC na mandatory. Ibig sabihin, wala kaming choice kung hindi isagawa ang halala.
At present, only 11 million pesos fund has been approved for special elections in 2026. Garcia said COMELEC will seek additional funding from the Office of the President. The Commission estimates that more than 98 million pesos will be needed to conduct the elections.
Sapagkat ang second district ng Antipolo ay may kulang-kulang na 300,000 na mga botante. Pinakamalaki po siya sa lahat ng distrito sa buong Pilipinas. So dahil po dyan, kakailanganin nyo na mas mataas at mas malaking budget.
Like previous special elections, voting will be conducted manually. According to COMELEC, voting will take place in more than 700 precincts, with the number possibly increasing depending on additional voters from the voter registration that opened in October last year. COMELEC has also released a calendar of activities including the filing of certificates of candidacy, election period, campaign period, and GAN bag. The special elections are scheduled on March 14, a Saturday, when there are no classes as public schools will be used as polling precincts. For God and my beloved Philippines, this has been Margaret Gonzalez, SMNI News.
At a time when the information war on social media is intense, a political vlogger and content creator explains why the Dutertes must be included in content for it to go viral. MJ Mondihar reports.
In the Philippines, social media has become a major part of the daily lives of the people. It is also one of the primary sources of news and information for many Filipinos, especially in political issues. For content creator Boss Dada TV, Filipinos now have become more politically aware because of social media. Based on his experience, for content to go viral, the Dutertes must be included.
Ay oo, ano yan, importante yan. Kasi alam nila partner na yung mga Duterte crowd, yung DDS kung tawagin, very passionate yan. Oo, talagang active yung mga yan, nakatutok yung mga yan.
Boss Dada TV or Darwin Salcedo in real life says that even some media organizations critical of the Dutertes are now including their names in interviews and content.
Kaya kapag ikaw gusto mo sumikat, aawayin mo si Duterte, magsasabi ka naman kung ano-anong mga masasamang salita sa mga Duterte kung gusto mo sumikat.
Based on the latest data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, 80.5% of Filipinos aged 10 to 64 use social media. This is equivalent to more than 68 million Filipinos who have daily access to the internet.
Sa panahon talaga simula nung 2016 talaga hanggang ngayon, grabe talaga naging namulat talaga yung mga Pilipino sa politika. Kaya ngayon ang style talaga sa social media, lalo na yung mga nagki-clickbait, ginagamit nila talaga yung subject nila. Duterte, si Sara Duterte, Pulong Duterte, si Pangulong Duterte, basta may Duterte talaga, tinitingnan na ng tao.
According to communication experts, the name Duterte is one of the strongest political brands in the Philippines, which is why it quickly generates reactions, whether positive or negative. Analysts add that the Duterte name carries strong emotional appeal, with both a solid base of supporters and strong critics. Because of this, engagement increases, such as comments, shares, and reactions. Under the algorithms of social media platforms, content with higher interaction is prioritized and distributed to more users, which is why it goes viral.
Kahit na hate views yan, o halimbawa ikaw sinira mo ang mga Duterte, o kahit hate views yan, pupuntahan ka sigurado ng mga followers ng mga Duterte. Kikita ka pa rin kasi dun kahit na murahin ka nila sa comment section, engagement yan. So nagre-rage bait sila partner para sa kita nila or sa engagement ng kanilang channel.
The political vlogger also called on the public to be discerning when consuming content on the internet. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been MJ Mondeja, SMNI News.
The Report of Agriculture is set to open mega cold storage facility in the Bicol region in the coming months. Sheena Torno reports.
Agriculture Secretary Francisco Chu Laurel Jr. inspected the 500 million pesos mega cold storage facility in Pili, Camarines Sur. The project is expected to help stabilize food supply and increase the income of local farmers and fisher folk in the Bicol region. The facility features 6 refrigerated warehouses and cold storage units with a capacity of nearly 5,000 metric tons of meat or about 3,000 metric tons of vegetables. It is also equipped with a blast freezer, processing and packing areas, and a solar power system. Through the project, Post-harvest losses are expected to be reduced. The cold storage facility will not only serve the Bicol region, but also the Visayas and Mindanao. According to the secretary, many agricultural products from the Visayas and Mindanao already passed through Camarines Sur before being transported to Metro Manila and other Luzon markets. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture will allocate an additional 500 billion pesos for a food hub project, which is set to begin in June. The agency aims to position Camarines Sur as a major food logistics hub in the region. Forgotten for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMNI News.
When we return, U.S. President Donald Trump and Venezuela's acting President Delcy Rodriguez talk trade. Washington confirms the first sale of Venezuelan crude under the new outrage, a deal worth $500 million. And Denmark and Greenland hold the line. Officials admit they failed to shift U.S. policy after high-level talks as President Trump maintains his push to acquire the island territory for America. More news after the break.
Ikaw ba ay namomroblema sa taas ng electric bill buwan-buwan? Huwag mag-alala, narito ang ilang paraan upang makatipid sa kuryente. Patayin ang mga ilaw at appliances kapag hindi ginagamit. Sa halip ay gumamit ng natural na liwanag upang makatipid sa kuryente. Tanggalin sa saksakan ang mga appliances kung hindi ginagamit. Iwasan ang paggamit ng maraming appliances ng sabay-sabay. Gumamit ng LED bulbs. Ito ay mas tipid sa kuryente kumpara sa mga incandescent at fluorescent bulbs. Regular na linisin ang mga appliances tulad ng electric fan, aircon vents at refrigerator. Magkaroon ng takdang araw sa isang linggo sa pamamalansya at paglalaba. Gumamit ng energy-efficient appliances. Tandaan, maging wais sa paggamit ng kuryente upang makatipid para mas gumaan ang buhay. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Venezuela's acting President Delcy Rodriguez have held a positive phone call focused on oil, trade, and security, as Washington confirms the first sale of Venezuelan crude worth about $500 million. More on this from Almar Fersuelo.
We had a long call.
The phone call between U.S. President Donald Trump and Rodriguez took place on Tuesday and marked the most direct diplomatic engagement between Washington and Caracas since U.S. forces captured former Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro earlier this month.
I know the number one, we just had a great conversation today, and she's a terrific person. I mean, she's somebody that we've worked with very well.
Trump described Rodriguez as a terrific person, saying discussions covered energy cooperation, minerals, trade, and national security. Rodriguez, in a statement, called the conversation long, respectful, and productive. Both sides portrayed the exchange as a step towards stabilizing bilateral relations after weeks of tension following Maduro's removal and sweeping changes to U.S. sanctions policy. On the same day as the call, a U.S. official confirmed that the first batch of Venezuelan oil under the new arrangement had already been sold. The initial sale generated approximately $500 million, making the first U.S. authorized Venezuelan oil transaction since Maduro's ouster. Officials say the proceeds are being held in controlled accounts to prevent legal disputes and to manage future disbursements. The developments signal a major shift in U.S.-Venezuela relations after years of sanctions and diplomatic isolation. Washington says the strategy aims to reintroduce Venezuelan oil into global markets while limiting outside influence and ensuring oversight of revenues. Critics, however, have questioned the legality and long-term political consequences of U.S. control over Venezuelan oil proceeds. For now, both governments are emphasizing cooperation, with energy diplomacy emerging as the centerpiece of rapidly evolving relationship. Reporting for Newsline World, Almar Forsualo, SMNI News.
Danish and Greenlandic officials admit they were unable to influence U.S. policy after high-level talks, as President Trump pushes his ambition to have Greenland for America. Jane Cudita will give us the details.
Danish officials say their recent talks with the United States failed to shift Washington's stance on Greenland, as President Donald Trump continues to insist the territory is vital for U.S. security. Foreign Minister Lars Rasmussen said after discussions with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio that neither he nor Greenland's Prime Minister could change America's position.
We didn't manage to change the American position. It's clear that the president has this wish of conquering over Greenland. We made it very, very clear that this is not in the interest of the kingdom. There's a government in Greenland with support from 3/4 of the Greenlandic population. The premier made it very, very clear yesterday that Greenland, for the time being and for foreseeable future, will remain within the kingdom of Denmark. And therefore, this is a common position that we want to work with our American friends and allies, but it must be a respectful cooperation and it must respect the red lines.
Rasmussen also denied that there are Chinese warships near Greenland, accusing America of lying. Trump has insisted that the U.S. absolutely needs Greenland, warning that if Washington does not act, Russia or China could gain influence over the Arctic territory. Trump also said that NATO is not an effective force or deterrent against Russia and China, but the military bloc would become more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of Washington. Earlier this week, Greenland's Prime Minister Jens Frederik Nielsen reaffirmed that Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark and rejected U.S. claims of ownership. The standoff has drawn attention from NATO allies. Sweden and several other European countries announced plans to send military personnel to Greenland following Trump's recent statements. This has been Jane Cudita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
The head of the World Health Organization has warned that the United States' planned withdrawal from the agency could put both the country and the world greater risk. Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus made the warning as Washington prepares to formally leave the WHO this January. The withdrawal process was launched last year by a presidential order, and the U.S. is now in the final stages of exiting the organization, with the withdrawal set to become official on January 2022. The move comes a year after a formal notice was sent to the United Nations. Tedros urged the U.S. to reconsider, saying that the withdrawal threatens global health security. Much of the WHO's work directly benefits the country. The WHO chief also highlighted ongoing reforms aimed at improving the agency's funding and operational efficiency. Experts cautioned that the U.S. withdrawal could weaken international coordination on disease outbreaks and pandemic preparedness, leaving gaps in early warning systems and emergency response. Thousands of commuters across Lima and Callao were left stranded Wednesday after public transport workers launched a nationwide strike, protesting escalating violence that has killed dozens of drivers this year. The story from Carlo de la Peña.
Long queues formed at bus stops as passengers waited for hours, walked several blocks, and scrambled for scarce transport. With most buses off the roads, only informal minibuses and taxis were operating, often charging higher fares. Transport workers gathered for demonstrations, holding Peruvian flags and chanting slogans as police monitored the protests. Scuffles broke out in some areas as officers tried to contain the crowds. The 24-hour engine shutdown strike began at midnight Wednesday, leaving more than 20,000 vehicles parked in garages and terminals. The action was called by United Transport and the Coordinator of Urban Transport Companies, or CTU.
Este paro porque queremos realmente que el Estado actúe como debe ser y que nos escuche a nosotros, los conductores, que somos los asesinados.
Unions say murders, extortion, and armed attacks have intensified, with 56 drivers killed and more than 60 violent incidents recorded this year alone. Mercado blamed what he called the failure of authorities to contain organized crime targeting transport workers. Amid the disruption, interim President Jose Heri met with transport unions in Lima and announced new security regulations.
Es el tema de los dos integrantes, de los dos conductores en moto, que el día de hoy se va a prohibir. Exactamente, que es la prohibición justamente. Y la profesionalización de los conductores. Son las dos normas que vamos a publicar. Bueno, vamos a firmar el día de hoy y en consecuencia mañana debe estar en plena vigencia.
Harry said the motorbike measure would allow police to intervene immediately when two riders are spotted, a tactic often linked to contract killings. The president also confirmed the law introducing extraordinary measures against extortion and contract killings in public transport will be approved by the Council of Ministers by January 17th and published the following day. For commuters, the strike brought frustration and fear as many called for stronger security on the streets.
Al presidente le diría que se ponga las pilas, que saque a los soldados para que vean bastante vigilancia.
While transport workers say the strike is the last resort, they warned further actions are possible unless authorities deliver concrete results against organized crime targeting Peru's public transport sector. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña, SMNI News.
South Koreans are sharply divided as they weigh in on former President Yoon Suk-yeol's alleged role in the botched martial law declaration, with some calling for the death penalty and others warning against politicized judgment. Valdivina Gracia has the story.
Divided public opinion was on display outside Seoul's Central District Court as citizens weighed in on the case involving former President Yoon and accusations linked to the declaration of martial law. Some argue that the brief duration of martial law does not lessen its seriousness, saying intent, not outcome, should determine accountability. Kim, a resident, said Yoon's martial law could have gone much further if not for public resistance and political intervention.
기본적으로 이 쌍팔년대도 아니고 국민을 대상으로 총뿌리를 들이대면서 그리고 계엄이 단 몇 시간 만에 끝났다는 그런 궤변을 노려오면서 그런 사형이나 무기징역에 해당하지 않는다고, 그리고 아무도 피해받지 않는다고 말하는 것 자체가 어불성설이라고 생각을 하고요. 만약에 그 시민들이나 국회에서 방해하지 않았다면, 그러니까는 그거를 반대하는 그 투표를 하지 않았다면 그대로 계엄이 성사됐을 텐데, 그래도 2시간 3시간 만에 끝날 거였다고 주장하는 것 자체가 말이 안 된다고 생각을 하거든요. 그래서 내란 목적이 분명했고 장기 집권이나 어떤 그런 불순한 목적들이 분명했기 때문에 그 내란의 어차피 형량은 사형이나 무기징역밖에 없으니까 당연히 사형을 구형하는 게 마땅했다라고 생각을 합니다.
Others also rejected calls for capital punishment altogether, criticizing the current administration and accusing it of shifting blame onto the previous government.
나는 윤석열 피고인의 다수가 정의를 대변하는 것은 아니다라는 주장에 충분히 생각할 만한 요소가 있다고 생각합니다. 지금 우리나라의 다수 의견인지는 모르겠지만 일방적으로 윤석열의 행위를 어떤 내란이라고 규정짓고 모는 그것은 분명한 오류이고 무리한 논리라고 생각합니다.
진짜 보면은 사형이 웬 말이며, 진짜 저도 윤석열 대통령을 100% 지지하지는 않습니다만, 100% 마음에 들었던 건 아닙니다만은, 생각외로 공적이 많은데 언론에서 나타나지도 않았을 뿐더러 지금 무정부나 다름없는 이 망할 정부가 화폐 가치도 뒤에서 꼴찌에서 5번째로 만들어 놔서 베네수엘라 이상꼴로 만들어 놓는데 무슨 사형이 웬 말이며, 정말 자기들 공적 아까 시행착오나 이런 안 좋은 거를 다 감추고자 지금 다 전 정부 탓하며 그런 쪽으로 이제 나아가면서 이제 한다는 게 저는 정말 어이가 없죠.
As proceedings continue, the case has become a focal point for wider debates over accountability, justice, and the limits of executive power in South Korea. Yoon will receive his first court verdict later this week. Reporting for Newsline World, this is Valdivina Gracia, SMNI News.
Filipino actress Mikey Quinos has officially turned the tassel, sharing her college graduation photos on Instagram. Meanwhile, global superstar Taylor Swift is keeping the holiday spirit alive, donating a generous gift to Brad Paisley and Kimberly Williams Paisley's charity, the store which supports families in need. Kaiva Lan has all the buzz.
Filipino actress Mikey Quintos has celebrated a major milestone, sharing highlights from her graduation from the University of Santo Tomas College of Architecture. Quintos took to Instagram to post photos from the ceremony, including her official graduation portrait, marking the end of years of hard work and dedication. The actress also shared candid shots with friends and mentors, acknowledging the people who motivated her through the hard college all-nighters. Her fans and fellow students flooded the comments with congratulations, celebrating both her academic achievement and her journey as a public figure. The holiday season may be over, but Taylor Swift's generosity continues. The pop superstar recently made a significant donation to fellow country artist Brad Paisley's charity. Swift, 36, contributed a generous gift to the store, a non-profit organization run by Brad Paisley and his wife, Kimberly Williams Paisley, which provides essentials to families in need. The donation comes amid Swift's ongoing efforts to support charitable causes and fellow artists, highlighting her commitment to giving back. Fans on social media quickly praised Swift for her continued generosity, noting that the singer has made multiple charitable contributions over the past year. From music awards to acts of kindness, Taylor Swift continues to make headlines both on and off the stage. Reporting for Newsline World, Kaivilan, SMNI News.
Oklahoma City earned a breakthrough win over San Antonio, cruising to a 119-98 home victory for its first win against the Spurs this season. While Alex Ayala showed her class once again, defeating the Croatia's Donna Vekic at the Koyong Classic in Melbourne ahead of her Australian Open debut. Carlo Della Peña give us the updates.
Star players across the league put on standout performances, giving fans plenty to cheer about as team's battle for early season momentum. The Thunder finally beat San Antonio, rolling to a 119-98 home win behind Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's 34 points, 15 of them in the third quarter. Oklahoma City held the Spurs below 100 points for the first time this season and extended its win streak to 4. In Los Angeles, LeBron James recorded 31 points, 10 assists, and 9 rebounds as the Lakers ended a 3-game losing streak with a win over Atlanta. Luka Doncic added 27 points and 12 assists, while DeAndre Ayton had 17 points and a season-high 18 rebounds. Miami also claimed a home victory after Bam Adebayo scored 13 straight points late in the fourth quarter to turn back Phoenix. Norman Powell finished with 27 points, including the go-ahead 3 in the final minute, and Tyler Hero contributed 23. Meanwhile, tennis star Alex Ayala's match against Donna Vekic shows that the former dominate from the start, using her agility and precision to control rallies and keep Vekic on the defensive. Her consistent serves and powerful ground strokes made it difficult for the Croatian to find any rhythm. The 20-year-old Filipina wrapped up the match in just over an hour, marking her final exhibition before competing against the world's top players in the season's first Grand Slam. Ayala repeated her win over Vekic, who is ranked at number 70 in the WTA, following a 3-set comeback victory at the ASB Classic in Auckland last week. That earlier win propelled her to a semifinal finish before losing to China's Wang Xinyu. In Kuyong, Ayala's rematch with Vekic was her only duel, as the tournament served as an exhibition for rising and seasoned players. Her strong performance continues to build momentum heading into the Australian Open. while her participation in the Philippine Women's Open later this month remains uncertain depending on her results in Melbourne. A former number 2 in the juniors and a 2020 Australian Open Girls doubles champion, Ayala continues to show she's ready to challenge the top ranks in women's tennis. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the Psalm. No matter who you are or whatever your circumstances in life, there are always things to be grateful for. And that's all for the edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Hannah Jane Sancho. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.